How's your hammer, everybody? I'm PTDevil. Now hear me out on this one.
I know that my channel is primarily a Yu-Gi tubing channel, so I really have no business talking about this sort of thing. However, I've been watching a lot of PokeTubers in my free time, most notably during my inadvertent hiatus, some of which include Noggin, Mystic Umbreon, and Aura Guardian, just to name a few. So I figure, hey, I might as well give it a shot for a while. And since I'm not likely to make any money off of this channel anyway, I figure I should just do whatever the hell I want to do anyway. So, to those of you who come here exclusively for my Yu-Gi-Oh! Content, don't worry, I'm still going to be doing everything that I'm already doing. Although, given my personal experience, a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Fans are also Pokemon fans as well, so I doubt most of you will be too disappointed. Still, even if you are, the next Deck Doctor should be up by the 27th, hopefully, assuming nothing goes catastrophically wrong in the meantime. Again, sorry I had to miss my usual schedule of it, but hey, finals are a bitch, and I think you all know that. And if you happen to be new to this channel and happen to click on it because you're looking at other Pokemon things, hi. Nice to meet you. I have a lot of other stuff on my channel if you want to check it out. It's pretty funny, I guess. Jokes aside, I'll probably be doing a bit more of this thing, at least for a while, so feel free to click subscribe anyway to see more Pokemon content. And if it does really well, maybe I'll keep this going indefinitely. Who knows? But more importantly, if I'm going to be dipping my toes into the world of PokeTubing, I feel like I need to establish what kind of Pokemon trainer I am. And I can think of no better way to do so than to do the My Pokemon team tag that was originally conceived by Hoodlum Scrafty. How this works is, I answer 4 questions and then tag 3 people to do the tag for themselves. Of course, since I wasn't tagged myself, I can't really force anyone else to do this tag, so I doubt any of them will follow through. But for the sake of doing the tag properly, I will tag 3 people anyway, and if they feel like it, maybe they might still do it. Who knows? Anyway, let's get on with it. Question 1. What would your trainer class be? Hang on. Fuck.
6 hours later.
So, after going through all 300 plus trainer classes, I couldn't find anything that really suited me well enough that I would feel comfortable branding myself with. However, I eventually settled for the one that most closely fit with my personality, appearance, and overall experience with Pokemon, and that, of course, would be Fairy Tail Girl. I'm kidding, it's Ace Trainer. I know it's kind of a boring choice, but nothing else was really close enough to match me as a person. The ones that were close were either too lame, too specialized, or too far removed from the main series to be even considered a reasonable choice. The only one that actually fit me on a personal level was the Comedian, and that was restricted to only a single throwaway character in the Pokestar Studios Godzilla ripoff, and only during the filming portion, so it's technically not even a real trainer class. So I was left with Ace Trainer to represent me, as trite and overused as it may be. Question 2. How many Pokemon would you have? I'd have 6. Next question. Why did you choose the number of Pokemon you chose? Because it's the maximum allowed for a full Pokemon team, and I could not for the life of me think of a reason to have any less than that. In fact, no one I saw could think of a reason why they would want to have less than 6, and if anyone says otherwise, well, they're lying. And the last and most important question, which Pokemon are on your team, and why did you choose those Pokemon? Now, since I'm well trained in the art of competitive breeding, having spent literal years raising an entire army of competitively viable Pokemon, I will be going into a lot further detail than most others going to this section, going as far as to list out movesets, abilities, and even held items whenever relevant. So with that in mind, let's get the most obvious choice out of the way first, and start with Arbok. Now, ever since I started this channel, Flame Viper has since unintentionally become something of a mascot for my channel, even going as far as to appear in thumbnails for videos that have absolutely nothing to do with Yu-Gi-Oh! Thus, if I were to pick a mascot to represent my PokeTubing side, I would be pretty much forced to go with Arbok. Now, I've never had anything in particular against Arbok. It's just that every time I get the idea of raising one, I take a look at its stats, or its move pool, or even its abilities, and I quickly come to the conclusion that I would rather shove shards of glass in my eyes. Then again, it's not like I play Flame Viper Beatdown in Yu-Gi-Oh! Either, so I suppose it's a fitting enough choice. As for a build, I would have to say it'd have the ability Intimidate, know the moves Coil, since it's pretty much Arbok's only saving grace, Glare for Paralysis, Gunk Shot for Stab, and Crunch for coverage. As for its held item, I don't know, maybe Black Sludge on the off chance it doesn't get OTK'd immediately? It's kind of a stretch. Now moving on to number 2, we have one of my favorite Pokemon to use competitively, and that is Cinccino. I will admit, when I first saw this Pokemon, I didn't really give a fiddler's fuck about it. I didn't hate it, but I didn't care for it either. However, unlike Arbok, I actually did see potential in this little ball of fluff in that it had the ability Skill Link, and that each hit of multi-strike moves has its own chance of activating secondary effects. That, coupled with Cinccino's high attack and speed, as well as the existence of certain held items, led me to give it a try. And I have to say, I loved every freaking minute of it. Anything it couldn't OTK, which wasn't much mind you, would end up flinching due to the King's Rock it was holding, giving each of its multi-strike hit moves a 41% flinch chance, which is insanely high for a regular attacking move. Its build is pretty predictable but effective, being based around its hidden ability Skill Link, having the moves Tail Slap, Bullet Seed, and Rock Blast obviously, and lastly Aqua Tail for coverage because Steel types, particularly Steelix, are kind of a huge pain in the dick for Cinccino to deal with. And of course, as mentioned before, its held item is a King's Rock. Now my third choice is a bit controversial since there are a lot of people who actually hate this Pokemon. However, I think it's pretty cool, so I've never really had a problem with it, and that Pokemon is Klinklang. Now before you grab your pitchforks and torches, just hear me out on this one. I've never really had a problem with Pokemon based on inanimate objects because, well, how else do you explain this shit? This may be the Aspie in me talking, but I've always had a fondness for odd shapes and things like gears, and the fact that it has a spiked ring around it makes it look like a literal death machine does make it look pretty badass to me. I will say that I don't much care for the transition from one stage to the next because it always struck me as just a lazy design philosophy, but the finished product is still pretty cool to me. I even have a shiny one that I just happened to find in the wild when I wasn't even looking for it. However, this one's just gonna be normal colored since I think even the luckiest trainer in real life wouldn't be able to have more than one shiny Pokemon at a time since they're so incredibly rare, and the shiny slot on my team is already taken by another Pokemon we'll be getting into later. As for its build, however, there isn't much coverage options, so there's going to be some limitations on what I can do. Starting with its moves this time, we'll go with Shift Gear because it's one of the best setup moves in the entire game, Gear Grind for stab, Wild Charge for what little coverage it can get, and Magnetic Flux in order to build on its already impressive bulk. This means that its ability will have to be minus because, in my opinion, plus is just a bit too mainstream for me, but I think it's well worth it when you consider that moves like Cosmic Power, Defend Order, and even Shell Smash are considered good for doing this exact same thing. Now I know some of you right now are thinking, hold up, that's not what Shell Smash does at all. Hold on, I'm getting to that. As for Klinklang's held item, we haven't had a Z move user yet, so let's go ahead and give it an Electrium Z just for the sake of catching foes off guard. Now in order to explain my claim about Shell Smash in the last entry, we'll have to move on to the next Pokemon on the team, that being Shuckle. Yeah, the most extreme stat distribution in the entire game, and I end up choosing one for my team. Well, that's because I actually have experience in using it. In the second to last VGC I ever went to, I ended up using a Shuckle on a Trick Room team, and to this day, this Shuckle has the distinction of being the only Pokemon to perform perfectly in every competitive battle I send it out in. Granted, I didn't end up using it much due to poor type matchups, but when I did send it out, it was an unkillable wall that could stall out even the heaviest of hitters. Once it was fully set up, it was able to take 2 consecutive super effective moves per turn and still not take more damage than the goddamn leftovers could heal. Now most people expect Shuckle to have Power Trick, since that would technically give Shuckle the highest attack stats in the game, which is actually a stupid game plan since its non-existent speed and now destroyed defense stats means that it could easily get killed by a goddamn Constrict. No, the power boosting move I use is Power Split, since it effectively steals half the attack stats of the opponent for itself, making it an excellent defensive as well as offensive tactic. Furthermore, the Shuckle I use has its hidden ability Contrary, which is one of my favorite abilities to play with, which means that the defense drop that normally comes with Shell Smash turns into a defense gain, turning it into even more of a tank to stall out with. Thus, this Shuckle would also have Contrary and know the moves Shell Smash and Power Split, then Rest because it needs as much HP recovery as it can get, and it doesn't really care as much about the sleep turns, and finally Infestation to chip away at the opponent. I would have gone with Toxic, but I wanted to be wary of taunt users since its held item will have to be a leftovers instead of a mental herb, because again, it needs the HP recovery. As for my 5th slot, I'm gonna have to go with the one that has the most personal significance to me, and that is Espeon, specifically Shiny Espeon, and here's why. The very first BGC event that I ever went to was the 2010 West Coast Regionals, and as my very first major competitive event ever, I instantly fell in love with the atmosphere. Granted, it was single elimination and I got swept round 1, but still, it was an enjoyable experience. But in addition to the competition, they were also distributing a shiny Eevee to everyone who just showed up that you could evolve into whatever you wanted, and I knew right then and there that me and that Eevee were going places. The only question was, what to evolve it into? Well, Sylveon didn't exist by then, since it was still 2 generations before the Fairy type, so that was out. And it was in my Soul Silver version, and I didn't feel like transferring it to Platinum just to evolve it, so Leafeon and Glaceon were also a no. The Cantonian evolutions also seemed like a bit of a cop-out since it was so easy to go with them, so I decided against them as well. And that left Espeon and Umbreon to choose from. And while I prefer the look of shiny Umbreon, I do have to admit that Umbreon is kind of useless without the egg moves that make it good. So I went with Espeon, and like I predicted, that Espeon quickly became one of my most trusted partners ever. That shiny Espeon is basically my Pikachu. Thus, shiny Espeon makes it onto my dream team as well, having much the same build as it does in my game. The ability Synchronized, because that was before hidden abilities were a thing. Psychic for stab, Shadow Ball for coverage, Trump Card because a strong normal move is surprisingly useful, and Morning Sun for healing. As for a held item, I feel like we can go for another Z move user, so we'll go with Psychium Z for this one. And now we get to the last slot on the team. But wait a minute. We don't have a Mega on this team yet. Well then, if that's the case, then I have only one option to fill the last slot on my team. And the 6th Pokemon on my team is going to be... Chandelure. Yes, I am willingly foregoing adding a Mega to my team for the simple reason that very few of them really fit me or appealed to me in any way, and the ones that did just so happened to share a type with one or more of the Pokemon already on the team, and I valued type diversity over maximum utility. And for that reason, I decided to go with Chandelure as my 6th choice. Not only are its types different from all the others on the team, but Chandelure also represents another time where I willfully chose it over a Pokemon that can Mega Evolve. This is because Chandelure was also my main in Pokken Tournament, even though the game was strongly pushing Pokemon like Lucario, Blaziken, and Charizard for the purpose of using Mega Evolution to win. However, I decided to go with Chandelure instead because I felt like it didn't get nearly enough love as it deserved, and after seeing just how much personality it had in that game, I was happy with my choice. Plus, I needed a special attacking Fire-type Pokemon since more than half of my team gets easily walled out by any Steel-type Pokemon, so I needed some form of counter. As for a build, based on the rest of my team, I would have to go with a Choice Scarf set to act as a revenge killer, and it would have the moves Fire Blast, Shadow Ball, Energy Ball, and Trick, and it would have its hidden ability Infiltrator, since there's really no point in having the other two on a revenge killer. And that would be my Pokemon team. Not as competitively viable as I would have thought, but honestly, who gives a shit about it? It's my dream team, so I'll do whatever the hell I want with it. Now I have to tag 3 people to continue the tag, not that I really expect any of them to do it, but it's a thing I gotta do to do it properly, so here we go. First, obviously, is going to be Zach, who is my partner in crime for all things YouTube. This should be pretty interesting since he knows next to nothing about Pokemon, so it'll be amusing to see what he comes up with it, should he actually do it. For number 2, I'm going to have to go with Davinator1212, who is literally the only other YouTuber I know personally well enough to actually tag someone, so I don't really have a choice. I know he's a fan of Pokemon, but I still doubt that he'll do a video on this without a damn good reason. As for number 3, I'm gonna have to go with Kieran on this one, since he's at least somewhat familiar with how YouTube works and might be able to make something if he wanted to, though again, he's not really a YouTuber, so I highly fucking doubt it.
Anyway, that's going to do it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you think of this in the comments below, and let me know if you want to see more of this kind of thing on this channel in the future. If you liked this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe. If you didn't like it, sacrifice a goat to Cthulhu and pray for my imminent demise. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, don't get run over. I'll see you guys later. Man, who would have thought that an Arbok got into my dream team? Guess this YouTube thing's really taken off, huh?